Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
7:06, and we are taking your calls now. 888-630-9625. Your reaction to the historic events yesterday. For the first time in American history, the Speaker of the House has been removed by a vote of, 8 people from his party and the majority of his opposition party, the totality of his opposition party. Kevin McCarthy, no longer the Speaker, has said that he's not going to put himself up again. So your reaction to that, and also if you have a plan going forward, because those who engineered this clearly didn't have a plan. They don't know who they want as the Speaker, but we want to know if you do. 888-630-WMAL at 7:35. We've got Byron York, 8:05 Newt Gingrich, and at 8:35 columnist David Marcus. I'm Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
And we've been speaking about it all morning, of course, so that's why I'm glad we're getting callers in. But I do want to say a couple of things. I want to play this audio first, just to remind you. This is from Speaker McCarthy, former Speaker McCarthy's press conference afterwards, where he basically reveals that he was counting on Nancy Pelosi to bail him out. I kid you not. Nancy Pelosi promised him that if this situation came up, she'd be there to back him up. And, of course, every single Democrat in unanimity, including Nancy Pelosi, voted to get rid of Kevin McCarthy. And if he thought that he was going to be fine with this arrangement because Nancy Pelosi had his back, he deserves to be out of a job right now. But here's what he said last night.
Interesting. It was in this room after we had won the majority. I had become Speaker last. And Nancy Pelosi came to me. She was Speaker at the time on the way out. And I told her I was having issues with getting enough votes. And she said, "What's the problem?" I said, "They want this one person can rule you out." She was the only Speaker to have changed that rule. I had the power to call the vote on her, but I never would. I lost some votes because of it. And she said, "Just give it to him. I'll always back you up."
There it is. And so he was confident going in yesterday that he would get enough Democrats to keep him in the chair. And he didn't. And lesson learned. Yeah. Speaker pro tem Patrick McHenry, a congressman who is famous, of course, for saying, give me McLiberty or give me McDeath. Patrick McHenry has told Nancy Pelosi that she must vacate the hideaway office that she has been utilizing since she left the Speaker chair.
Yeah, and just to be clear, hideaways are just little offices, not our official office.
But it is an office on Capitol Hill.
It's a little office that they can work at when they're on the floor.
In the Capitol building versus having to go under the tunnel and have to pull fire alarms to get out the doors and things like that at Cannon. And
you really are tying everything together.
And it's sort of like, why the hell did she even have a hideaway office? It was a courtesy. Well, clearly it was because McCarthy was a little chummy with her after all of this. And you know what? I'm okay with a clean slate, given that. I mean, I'm sad that we are where we are. I am. And I don't think it was a smart move.
I don't think that was McCarthy being chummy with. Look, hideaways are a thing that elder statesmen, people who used to be speakers.
She doesn't deserve to be treated as an elder
senators.
statesman. Not the way she has treated Republicans. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm just saying, everybody attacks people for the norms, but then this is like a normal procedure in the Senate where people who've served as formerly as Speaker, elder statesmen, they are given, people who might trip getting through the tunnels. Okay, they are given people who drink gin at lunch.
Do you think Hakeem Jeffries would give Kevin McCarthy a hideaway?
I don't know.
I do. He would.
I'm just trying to
888-630.
Being too easy on McCarthy, I know.
WMAL. Well, I'm not hard on McCarthy. Again, I don't think this was a smart idea yesterday. I don't think that it's good.
Particular example
because it keeps us from moving forward with investigations. But when you see things like that, it's like, you know what? He didn't understand what time it is right now.
Maybe.
888-630 WMAL. Let's start with Andrew in Bristol. Andrew, you are first up here on WMAL.
Hey, Larry. It's honestly, I was on the fence. I've never liked Kevin McCarthy. He gives you that warm, used car mix of, mega church pastor feeling. But man, when you played that, I was like, not only were you too stupid to realize you shouldn't get in bed with Pelosi, but then you use it during your you say this out loud.
Yeah, actually, you said it. You said it. Yeah, you know what? I hadn't thought of that, Andrew. You're right. Yeah,
parable. It's the frog and the scorpion. The frog and the scorpion.
Frog and the scorpion. It's her nature. It's her nature. Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Andrew.
That's smart. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean, I was watching that, and some parts of it were good, but it did his sort of goodbye speech was Mark Sanford level uncomfortable at times, where I was like, "Oh, dude, stop!" Right, and that was
his comms person was like, "Okay, last question."
I know.
12 questions later, it's like, please.
Please stop.
But he was having his moment. I get it. Phil in Fredericksburg. Phil, what's next now? What do you think?
Well, I think that McCarthy may have saved the 2024 presidential election for the Republicans by doing this, because what he did was he put that rule in there knowing he was going to be outed, and he didn't know when. But I heard about this deal that got him outed, and I heard the mischaracterization of it. I heard it from WMAL, from the senators who worked or the House people who worked on it, said that it was mischaracterized. And I think what we've got to do here is we've got to use this to strengthen the Republican Party. We've got to become unified. We've got to find whoever they want to put in the
lead. Phil, I'm with you. We do need to get unified. But before you get rid of this guy and have all of this drama yesterday, shouldn't you know who that person is?
You know, that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to get this thing underway. We've got to get that White House back, and we've got to get the Senate back. We've got to do it.
All right. And you think in the long run this might help in that cause? All right.
I think depending on how we do this, it's going to really help.
We shall see. Thank you, Phil. I want to be optimistic as well. And
he is not an Eeyore.
He is not. No, sir. All right. How about Denise in Annapolis? Denise, your reaction to yesterday's events?
Good morning, Larry and Julie.
Good morning.
Thank you for taking my call. The people are pissed off, and Trump is our best candidate, and why the Republicans can't coalesce around him is beyond me. But with as dirty as the Democrats have been playing, politics as usual are getting us nowhere.
So, Denise, I hear you loud and clear. I hear you loud and clear. So I need you to help me connect dots here. Because of these 8 Republicans, 2 of them are actually anti-Trump, right? Nancy Mace and Ken Buck. And so that leaves 6. And are you telling me that those 6 Republicans who did this are the only ones who are really loyal to Donald Trump, that are really the only ones who are America First MAGA? Because that doesn't make sense. If that's the case, then Trump's got a much bigger problem in the House than anyone imagined.
Well, I am certainly not politically savvy, but I just kind of represent the average American out here. And, you know, I don't know how the politics play out on the floor, but what we've been doing ain't working.
That I hear.
And, you know, I have a lot of sympathy for what you're saying here, too, because the Democrats are on the same message. Always. They're acting like Biden is coherent. Why can't the Republicans? So I sympathize with what you're saying.
Thank you, Denise, in beautiful Annapolis, where the boat show is coming this week. So.
Nice.
Boat show and a Navy home game on Saturday. It's going to be
You're going to be busy.
Very crazy downtown. All right, more of your calls. 888-63. I had to go to my happy place for a second there. 888-630-9625. And the Trump issue here is very interesting to me because there's a whole lot of diehard pro-Trump people who were in favor of keeping Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy's been pretty diehard pro-Trump. And by the way, last I heard from President Trump, he wanted McCarthy to be Speaker. So if you think that this was, you know, Trump Nation rising up, I'd love for you to clarify things for me a little bit, because I don't think Nancy Mace and Ken Buck represent the MAGA crowd. 888-630-WMAL. It's 7:15.
The new WMAL app has arrived. Download it today and listen anywhere in the world.
On this vote, the yeas are 216. The nays are 210. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
And with that gavel sound, history was made. First time ever that this has happened. And so, you know, listen, we've seen a lot of history over the last...
And then the gavel broke.
And then they broke the gavel. What do you say to this? 888-630 WMAL. And what's next? More importantly, let's move forward, right? How about Garrett in Fredericksburg? You are next up, Garrett.
Good morning.
Hey.
I was thinking about this last night, and it is really conflicting. But if they had tried to find another speaker before they did this, then McCarthy would have been on to them, and there would have been a different course of action. A lot of the sausage making that goes on behind the scenes that the veteran congressmen know how to do, the younger congressmen don't really know that much about it, and they come in with great intentions. They want to do this, they want to do that, and they don't realize what they can't do because they have to get along with the people on the other side of the aisle. So, it was tricky. I think the only way to get that done, to get McCarthy out, would have been to do it the way they did it. Otherwise, I don't think it would have happened. I don't know who they're going to pick now.
Well, that's the thing. If getting McCarthy out is the only goal, they certainly did that, and they accomplished it. The question, there's a whole lot of balls in the air right now. Thank you for the call, Garrett, including the impeachment inquiry, including we've got clock ticking on this stupid continuing resolution. I don't know if your plan is to get to regular order and pass appropriations bills. Getting rid of the speaker right now certainly slows that process down. There's a lot happening. There's a lot happening, including the election in Virginia coming up, and including a Republican nomination process. Yeah. And so, there's but if the only goal was to get rid of McCarthy, you're right, dude. They certainly did that. How about go ahead.
Well, there's also a presidential election coming up, and it would be helpful to know how the Biden administration and the Biden crime family has been operating. I mean, because the press isn't going to reveal any of this stuff.
Tom in Silver Spring takes issue with me saying they don't have a plan. All right, Tom, they may have a plan. I haven't heard it. What's the plan?
Well, that's the problem. Everything in Washington, even before they take the votes, even before they make the nominations, it's all worked out beforehand. And what happened was this struck the system, just like when Trump got elected in 2016. It went against what everything was already laid out prior. This is great. They're going to force them all to come together. They're going to come up with a plan. And for the first time in I don't know how many years, it's not all going to be worked out beforehand. And I think anything that you can do to break the way that it's been done in the past is a good thing.
So do you think that Ken Buck is part of the strategy of sort of disrupting business as usual? Because Ken Buck is the poster child for business as usual. He's Liz Cheney's sock puppet.
Right. That's what's surprising everybody, because it's not business as usual. And I think they had an agreement. McCarthy lied. They held him to the agreement, and people are surprised by that because for the first time in D.C. history, someone actually did what they say they were going to do.
So, Tom, and let me just be clear. So you believe that, and I'm not taking sides here. I'm curious as to how we work this out. You believe that Kevin McCarthy went back on his agreement because Matt Gaetz says he did, but Chip Roy, the man who actually crafted that agreement, says that Kevin McCarthy did not go back on the agreement. So why are you believing Matt Gaetz over Chip Roy?
Well, that's the problem. Let us all see the agreement. Put the agreement out there. Let's see it in writing with their signatures on it. That's the point I'm making.
I see.
It's like we don't ever get to see anything here, and for the first time, some people got surprised. Some people who normally wouldn't make these votes have made the vote, and I think all these people saying, "Oh, well, it's only 8 people." I'm sorry. If you win the vote by one vote, it's a one vote. Doesn't matter. Yeah. And for too long, everybody is always trying to, steer the narrative to how they think it should become, and then it all follows that way. Well,
Tom,
you know what?
I get that. But just so you know, no one here has said it's only 8 people. What we're saying is it's only 8 Republicans, and it's all of the Democrats. So, again, this is something that you, Tom, and all of us have to sort of confront, is that if this was the great disruption that breaks business as usual and breaks up the establishment, then you're telling me that every single Democrat, shoulder to shoulder in unanimity with those 8 Republicans, are in favor of disrupting business as usual. And I don't want to be on their side. That's my problem.
And here's the other thing with that. It's like I don't think they're siding with the Democrats. I mean,
no. They literally sided with the Democrats. They literally gave the Democrats exactly what they wanted.
Right, but the problem is it's always shirts and skins all the time. You know, nobody ever is going to cross over and work with anyone else to get anything done in the city. Never. It just doesn't happen.
Well, it happened yesterday.
It's like our team. It's like our team against their team. You know, it's our team against their team, and I think the Democrats. You're right. They stick to whatever the Democrat line is, and everyone wants the Republicans to do that too. I don't want the Republicans to do that. I want to hear differing ideas. I want to see people working together. I want to try to get something done. You're not always going to get what you want 100% of the time. Although we would like it, you're going to have to compromise.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying compromise your values.
But isn't that what Kevin McCarthy is getting accused? Tom, we're out of time. I'm right up against it, and I appreciate the call. But it's just ironic to me that you want them to compromise and reach across the aisle and work together. But the reason that they just got rid of Kevin McCarthy is because he was accused of compromising and working together with Democrats. We follow this stuff pretty closely, and I'm at a loss. Tom, thank you for the call. It is 7:24.
Now on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36 here on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here on, again, this historic day. The day, a lot of people couldn't get through on the lines. They're absolutely jammed. And if we can get calls, we have a busy morning ahead of us, but if we can get calls. But one person texted me and said, Republicans need to get a speaker who lacks any sense of humanity. That's what's required these days. It's true. We need a ruthless, cutthroat assassin like Nancy Pelosi was, right? It's sad. No, exactly. You need someone who's, Yeah. Coming up on this program at 8:05, Newt Gingrich has some pretty strong opinions about this, and he's been there. And at 8:35, David Marcus, columnist, analyst, he had some pretty interesting thoughts as well. So we'll get to them in a moment. But right now, we've got Byron York, who covers things. Boy, Byron, we always say to each other, well, I thought I'd seen it all, and now here we are seeing something new.
I have not seen this before. If the election for speaker, they attempted it in 1910. I mean, maybe Joe Biden remembers that one.
I was going to say, I forgot what your column was that next morning.
Yeah. Next morning I wrote a story about Speaker Cannon or something. If the election for speaker, the one we just had, was held only among House Republicans, Kevin McCarthy would have won in a blowout, 210 to 8. Okay? 210 to 8. That's how the vote went. 210 Republicans voted for him to keep him as Speaker, and 8 Republicans voted to remove him, and yet he was ousted. As he said in his news conference afterwards, this is an insane system. It should be changed, but there it is. Representative Gates gave Democrats, on a silver platter, an opportunity to remove a Republican Speaker. And Democrats, they're the opposition party. They have no obligation to save Republicans from themselves. They voted unanimously, 208 of them, against McCarthy. Why wouldn't they?
Well, it's funny, Byron. I don't know if you saw this or not because it was late into the evening on Kevin McCarthy's press conference, but I played the audio several times. Last night he said he told Nancy Pelosi during the fight that they wanted this one voice ouster, and Nancy Pelosi said, "Go ahead and give it to them. I've got your back. I'll back you up." So I think he trusted her and thought that the Democrats wouldn't do what the Democrats obviously were going to do.
Well, in retrospect, that was a mistake.
Yeah, you think? Yeah.
A Republican basing his future survival on Nancy Pelosi's word was a mistake.
Yeah.
And now this whole idea of the motion to vacate being set in motion by one person was something that was really actually new and something that Representative Gates and a very, very few of his allies insisted on in that crazy period in January in which there were 15 votes. But, they set this up. They knew that this was always an option. And frankly, they did it a little earlier than I would have thought. But, I thought maybe next year or something. But they did it now, and it worked.
Yeah, it worked, and there's an awful lot of anger at Gates. There are charges. People are saying this is personal. This was about revenge. Kimberly Strassel had a tweet out last night saying this is about headlines and donations and their own election. So, what are your thoughts on that sort of?
Oh yeah, I think that of the original opponents to McCarthy going back to January, I think they were really divided into two groups, and some were the ones who were really serious about spending, like Chip Roy, and then some were the performance artists. And I think Gates is in the performance artist category. What they say they want, which is to reduce, $33 trillion national debt, reduce the $2 trillion deficit. They're not going to enact. They're doing what they just did, the 8 of them, to remove McCarthy is not going to get the nation any closer to those goals. It's just not. And we're going to have another stupid Republican shutdown drama in which a small number of Republicans, like they did in 2013 when they thought they could defund Obamacare, with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic president. I think we're going to have just another kind of stupid shutdown scenario which you can pretty much attribute to Representative Gates and the small number of allies.
Byron, what's the next step here in terms of leadership? A twofold question. First of all, can the Judiciary and Oversight Committee hearings continue on the track of investigating the impeachment inquiry that so many of us were looking forward to and interested in, or must there be a speaker in place before that happens? And if so, who do you think is going to be able to build this coalition?
Yes, the question is we can't govern ourselves, but at least we can keep investigating Joe Biden. I'm not an expert on this. You need to get somebody like Chad Pergram or somebody who knows this back and forth. But I believe in January, when they didn't have a speaker, the House was not, I think they used the word constituted. The committees weren't set up. They weren't running, the chairman and all of that. And so nothing could happen until there was a speaker. Now I believe the committees can continue their work, and the full House can't do anything until there's a speaker. I think that's the way it works. So I believe that Representative Comer and the others can continue to seek documents and continue, to investigate the Biden matter. And other committees that are doing sort of actual legislative work can continue. They can all continue to do that.
But someone told me they can't have hearings. Someone told me there couldn't be a hearing set up.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, me neither. All right. And then is it Scalise? Is it? I mean, and by the way, if it is Scalise, he was part of McCarthy's leadership, and he was in favor of keeping McCarthy.
Yeah.
So
what's the difference?
Yeah. Well, Scalise was a possibility back in January when Gates and others were blocking McCarthy. And he chose to back McCarthy. And so far he chose to do it this time too. But McCarthy's gone. They've removed him.
Right.
So I would think that any obligation that Representative Scalise had to defend Kevin McCarthy is kind of over, because Kevin McCarthy's speakership is over. You hear about Jim Jordan as well. These are kind of the obvious answers, and they may indeed try to do this. But, you have 210 really angry Republicans, the ones who voted
They're angry
for
at each other.
Kevin McCarthy. Well, they're angry at the 8.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
They're angry at these 8. It's like the Big Lebowski. It's the nihilists. They're angry. They're angry at the 8. Yeah, it's the nihilists. And so the reason they didn't continue their work, Gates wanted to just continue last night and today and everything, just keep working. And the reason they just called it off until Tuesday is because everybody was so mad. And it's not a great idea to do really important things when you're that mad. They said, let's go home. And they're not going to chill out, but they're going to think about this for
little cooling off
for a
period.
few days, and then they're going to come back.
Byron York, Washington Examiner. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it's just like there's like Meredith and I. We never go to bed when we're angry. You always want to try to resolve it.
We go to bed angry all the time.
Just sleep angry. Really, clenched fists.
I'm kidding.
Fine.
Stop talking.
It's 7:45. On a busy morning now, we have an update on the story we told you out of Fairfax County, where the Democrat school board member, Stella Pekarsky, appeared to use her position on the school board to try to punish her rival in the state Senate race she's engaged in, Republican school teacher Julie Perry. And now it's been exposed thanks to the reporting out of Daily Wire and Luke Rosiak. We told you all about it too, and it appears now that Ms. Perry has lawyered up because we've got her lawyer, Hayden Fisher, to give us an update. Thank you, Hayden, for joining us. What is the latest on this?
So the latest is we got more information. We started to put all the facts together, and obviously there will probably be a civil suit coming soon. But in the meantime, because this has affected Julie in ways beyond politics, in the meantime, we have connected more dots. It appears that one of the complainants, Vanessa Hall, was soliciting funds for the Fairfax Democratic City Committee or County Committee back in January, and so that's been connected. That's the latest dot to be connected. So what it's appearing is that this was very organized by the Pekarsky camp.
So Democrat activists basically started putting forth complaints about Ms. Perry as a teacher for things that she said on social media, et cetera, and she actually had to deal with disciplinary action from the administration, and it looks like it was all just a political dirty trick.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that the complaint was false. The initial CPS complaint was false, unfounded, dismissed out of hand by Fairfax CPS as patently false. And that wasn't enough. That led to the email complaint by Vanessa Hall, which we've obtained. And that led to the conference where they had Luke Rosiak pointed this out. There's a memo where there's a conference call scheduled with Stella Pekarsky, Stella, R.E., Julie Perry. Shortly thereafter, Julie gets a long memorandum reprimanding her and threatening her and called into the office, principal's office, and all that kind of good stuff. So it goes on, and then they also brought in students from her classroom trying to intimidate them.
I just want to ask, how is Ms. Perry doing? I mean, this was so personal, and as you have laid out, it was coordinated. And I mean, they really tried. I mean, this is ultimate cancel culture. They tried to get her fired. This would have had terrible harm to her own record as a teacher. So how is she doing? I know you're her lawyer and you're here to talk about the legal process, but you know, how is she faring after all of this has been sort of laid out?
Well, on the one hand, she's received a lot of support from her colleagues and from other people supporting her, but it's also devastating to find out that you are the target, being targeted unfairly because of your political views and because of your aspirations. And she has aspirations to serve the public, representing the public as a teacher and on education issues and on other issues as well. But it's certainly disappointing and devastating to learn that you're being unfairly targeted. But on the other hand, a lot of people have come and supported her. So it's a double-edged sword in some ways. It's good to know that people have your back in times like this, but it's disappointing to learn that somebody who's supposed to be, she was a school board member. She's supposed to be supporting the school, supporting the teachers. And instead, she's organizing a coup basically behind Julie's back.
Quickly, Mr. Fisher, because we're running out of time, you're in charge of the civil suit that you just alluded to. But isn't this criminal? Isn't this abuse of power? Yes. Isn't this misuse of power? Is the Attorney General, Mr. Miyares, looking into this?
Well, it's clearly abuse of power, and the Attorney General's office has confirmed to Azra Damani that they're examining this and allegations of election interference. I think it's only developing. We'll go from there. So I'm not a criminal attorney. I'm a civil attorney, but I'll leave that to the people who know criminal law. But it's clearly an abuse of power.
Our best to your client, Julie Perry, and if any out there, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Anyone out there wants to send her some support, the best thing you can do is vote for her today in this race. Send a message to these bullies. Send a message to Stella Pekarsky, who appears to be nothing but a bully. And also is clearly a little concerned about the way this race is going in Fairfax. That tells you something.
And send a message to these activists like Vanessa Hall who are intimidating these good people.
It's 7:53.